Hi guys, good afternoon. It's Rob back for another video. Hi, this this isn't the this isn't going to be the video that I intended to make today. I was actually going to do a quick reply as a special request to Martin Parrott, who, as some of you may be aware, uploaded just a very quick video on Friday as a sort of whack-a-mole. I think he found himself in a bit of a kind of bored disposition and decided that he was going to just do a quick video, and he did. And yeah, I was going to do a response to it, but sadly, all my records, as you may have seen from previous videos that I've made, my records are all in tubs on the floor. They're not in nice Kallax units that are kind of easy to access. So I actually pulled a muscle in my back this morning, so my twisting and bending abilities at the moment are pretty limited, and it's a bit sore. So yeah, but it's going to give me the opportunity to do something else instead. Yeah, James Griffiths uploaded a video yesterday, which was entitled 10 albums that I'd like to, or I wish I knew better. Yeah, so he was obviously talking about records that he got in his collection, maybe some that he'd had for some time, that he, for various reasons, doesn't know particularly well. So yeah, and he showed a few records and sort of explained his reasons why that was the case. Yeah, this idea that we have records, because we all, we're all, or majority of us are fairly regular record collectors. You can often accumulate sometimes quite large numbers of records, and you don't always play them. They get sort of cleaned and filed away, and then for sort of sometimes inexplicable reasons, they don't get played and sort of get lost in the melee, as it were. So yeah, I mean, I haven't got 10 as James showed, but I think I've got 7 here. A couple of them I should probably, because they're related, I'm going to probably speak about them at the same time. Yeah, so I mean, some of these, I guess, fall into the category of of maybe expectations were kind of higher, and then when you played them, they didn't deliver on what you were expecting. So maybe only played once or twice, perhaps. But I mean, none of these records I dislike per se. They're just not in any heavy rotation whatsoever. They don't get played very often, yeah, maybe they fall into the category of, as James said, they're worthy of revisiting and giving some attention to. So, okay, so we'll start off then. The first one is a fairly or relatively recent one that's picked up a couple of years ago. This is the Fleet Foxes and Crack Up. So this is the Fleet Foxes' third studio album. It came out in 2017, I believe. Yep, 2017. Okay, and there was a big hiatus between the second album, Helplessness Blues, and this one. I think basically because Robin Pecknold decided, after touring in sort of, I think it was 2012, I think, or 2011 when that album came out, and he decided to go back to sort of to college and continue studying and so on, and obviously various other activities and so on. So there was this long hiatus. The second album, I was obsessed with just a bit of history with the Fleet Foxes. For me, I was obsessed with their first album. I absolutely adored that album when it came out. It really blew me away, and I just played it endlessly because I had the CD originally before I got the vinyl, and I just absolutely just played it to death in the car for years. My son got utterly sick of it. My wife likewise. And yeah, I just knew it inside out, back to front. You know, like James says, you can recite them as you're walking along. You don't necessarily need to actually physically sit and listen to the record because you know it so well. And then the second album came out, and it just didn't kind of. I mean, I liked some of the tracks on it, but it wasn't as sort of instantly appealing to me. There was kind of less of the kind of, if you call it, kind of folk elements in it, I guess. Um, and he obviously, they didn't want to repeat the same formula, and wanted to kind of keep progressing their sound. So yeah, so eventually when this one came out, my expectations weren't huge, but they released the 3rd of May, which was released digitally as a single several months before this album came out. It's kind of an epic. It's the longest track on the album. This is actually split up over two records, so the quality's, it sounds great, yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of the songs on this are great, and it's they're really nice. But it just, for some reason, I just found that this didn't flow particularly well as an album. So it wasn't a go-to album. It wasn't something that once I'd listened to it, I thought, I need to go back and play that again. Because I guess I didn't connect with it really strongly first time around. But yeah, I mean, perhaps that's one that I need to go back to and give some, some deeper consideration to. Okay, next one was an album that I got a few years ago, and this was actually sealed when I got it, although it is a 80s reissue. And this is Kaleidoscope's 4th album, I believe, which is Beneath. Okay, so this is the American psych band Kaleidoscope, and this is their I think this came out in 1970. And yeah, I mean, I loved the first Kaleidoscope album. It's kind of a psych classic, and very acoustic driven, loads of kind of strange kind of strung instruments being played on it, and yeah, just right up my alley. Really, really enjoy that, and I've played that over dozens and dozens of times. This album came along, and I saw this in the racks. Obviously, picked it up because I liked the first one so much. I must admit, this, yeah, it's kind of there wasn't the kind of that psychoacoustic sound that was kind of very fresh and natural. The tracks are very, very different on this. This is much more of a kind of a rock album. I mean, it's not bad, but it again, my expectations, just because I hadn't really heard this album prior to picking it up. I just liked the band. It wasn't particularly expensive, so I thought I'd take a chance on it. Yeah, so again, that's another one maybe that I need to go back and revisit. Okay, next one. This is Jethro Tull. Obviously, I'm a big Jethro Tull fan, particularly of their early work and most of their 70s output. This one, this is kind of the last studio album that I picked up by them, and this is Stormwatch from 1979. So this was kind of part of the trilogy of sort of the kind of return to a kind of folkier sound. Started with Songs from the Wood, and then Heavy Horses which came out before this one, and obviously then this one. Um, yeah, this for me just didn't have the same kind of vibe as those other two albums. Just the songs just didn't seem to connect with the songs. There wasn't that kind of sort of that wry humour that I love in Ian Anderson's songwriting, the lyrics that was coming through. Yeah, it was very much more of a kind of a rock album, but it just sounded a bit laboured, and it just didn't, none of the songs really stood out for me. So yeah, I've maybe played this through twice, but it's been a long, long time since I've played it. So I've thought about passing it on, maybe. I don't know, but it's going to stay in my collection for now anyway. But whether I'll return to it again, I don't know. But yeah, not a favourite of mine. Okay, this was an interesting one. I always loved It Must Be Love by Labi Siffre, and this is his 1972 album, Crying, Laughing, Loving, Lying. And it was noteworthy when I saw it, and I picked it up because it's actually got it's actually signed on the inside there by the artist to Margaret. So I don't know whether that was at a gig or something, that she took it along for him to sign, or record signing perhaps at the time in the shop. But yeah, I've played this through a couple of times. Don't really know this album at all, to be honest. I remember I quite liked it. It wasn't that I disliked it. But yeah, it's just kind of, I've just never really returned to this album to give it any sort of, deeper listening, or it's just not made it to my turntable. So yeah, that's another one I think I should delve back into, and is deserving of a bit more attention, I think. So okay, next two sort of ones which I'm going to sort of feature together because they are connected. These are the Incredible String Band, the Robin Williamson and Mike Herron. These are their respective debut albums. So we've got Smiling Men with Bad Reputations. That was 1971 by Mike Herron. And Myrrh, which is Robin Williamson's debut from 72. And obviously the Incredible String Band was still, still recording at the time when these albums were released. But yeah, I mean, I picked them up because, you always think, early works by these artists, they're still going to be kind of in the peak of their songwriting ability and playing and so on. But yeah, I was kind of a little bit, I don't know, neither of these particularly grabbed me. I mean, Robin Williamson is a genius, absolute genius. I mean, those particularly, I think those first four Incredible String Band albums are just seminal and essential, especially for anybody who's into psych folk or folk, progressive folk music. Yeah, I mean, they just kind of, were just pioneers of that, I guess. But just very innocent and just playful and doing their own thing. And, it's unique, didn't sound like anybody else. Again, these albums, neither of these, I've played them, maybe two or three times, but they just don't really grab me. There's nothing there that's kind of, that is kind of anywhere near as good as the as the original ISB albums. So I'm kind of, I just never feel driven particularly to sort of return to these albums, because I end up just playing the Incredible String Band albums instead because they're better. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, am I wrong? Am I right? I mean, music's very subjective, isn't it? It's personal taste. You know, I don't know. I'm sure I'll play them again. I've got no intention of selling them, so they'll stay in my collection. But I don't know how. When I'm probably going to play them again. Okay, and the last one. This kind of surprises me because I know this is a classic of Neil's, and I do I do like a couple of the songs on this, but it's just not one that it's not a go-to album. This is Zuma. So this is his 1975 album with Crazy Horse. Very very grungy, very electric. A lot of the kind of folk elements of his earlier albums aren't sort of present here. And I guess for me, I like the acoustic Neil Young. So my go-to albums are always After the Gold Rush, Harvest. Everybody knows this is nowhere. I love the first album as well. But this one, I mean, I love individual tracks like Cortez the Killer, Pardon My Heart. But I don't know this album particularly well. I don't play it regularly enough for it really to get under my skin. I know it's a good album, and it's got a good reputation. But it's just not one that I put on regularly. Maybe again, it's one that I should deserves revisiting, and sort of trying to absorb a bit more. Okay, so just one other thing I wanted to mention with this record. I was lucky enough when I picked this up, as those of you that obviously own a copy of this record, that you get this lyric sheet that comes with it. This one actually has two. So an identical one that came in. It came in with this copy. So I don't need two, obviously. So I mean, if anybody's got a copy of this album and they're missing the lyric sheet, send me a message. I'll be happy to send it to you. If you can use that, and so no problem at all. Okay, so that's it, guys. Fairly quick one there. Thanks to James for putting together another interesting thread. I've got one or two ideas for videos coming up, because obviously I'm not going to be buying any more vinyl anytime soon. And as I said before, I don't really buy online. So it's going to be a bit of a famine, and maybe this is the time that it give me that time to revisit some of these albums that I've featured here this morning, and to reappraise them. So thanks to James, and take care, you guys out there, and enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we'll speak again soon. All the best. Bye-bye.